Hello and welcome. This is Notibot ENG. I'm your anchor, Name. Tonight, we're bringing you the latest developments from the Middle East, where tensions between Israel and Iran have escalated to a new level. The conflict has taken a toll on global politics, with the U.S. Congress passing a resolution criticizing Israel's actions. We'll take you through the latest updates on the Iran war, its impact on European air travel, and the shifting dynamics of the U.S.-Iran peace talks. Get ready for a comprehensive look at the most pressing stories of the day. As tensions escalate in the Middle East, the U.S.-Israel alliance is facing unprecedented pressure, with a growing rift between pro-Israel Democrats in Congress. The U.S.-Israel relationship is facing a significant crisis, with Democrats in Congress increasingly turning against U.S. funding for Israel's defense systems. This shift in sentiment is a stark contrast to just 4 years ago, when such opposition was considered fringe. At the center of the growing controversy is the Iron Dome missile defense system, a key component of Israel's military arsenal. Democrats in Congress have long supported U.S. funding for the system, but in recent months, a growing number of lawmakers have begun to question this policy. Representative Maxwell Frost, a Democrat from Florida, stated that opposing U.S. funding for the Iron Dome was seen as insanely fringe 4 years ago. However, he now says that this position is no longer viewed as fringe, but rather as a legitimate concern. Representative Jim McGovern, a Democrat from Massachusetts, has taken a similar stance, stating that he cannot support more military assistance to Israel. This shift in sentiment is significant, as it reflects a growing divide between the U.S. and Israel on issues of defense spending. The implications of this growing opposition are far-reaching and matter greatly to U.S. foreign policy and national security. The issue has sparked a heated debate within the Democratic Party, with some lawmakers arguing that U.S. funding for Israel's defense systems is essential for maintaining a strong alliance with the country. Others, however, see this funding as a form of unconditional support for Israel's military actions, which can be detrimental to U.S. interests and regional stability. As the debate rages on, the future of U.S.-Israel relations remains uncertain. As tensions escalate with Iran, a developing crisis could have far-reaching consequences for air travel in Europe, with jet fuel supplies at risk. A critical shortage of jet fuel is threatening to ground flights in Europe, as tensions over the Strait of Hormuz continue to disrupt global oil supplies. The crisis has its roots in the ongoing war between the U.S. and Iran, which has led to the closure of airspaces and a sharp spike in energy prices. According to the International Energy Agency, Europe has maybe 6 weeks or so of jet fuel left, and a 2-week truce between Iran and the U.S. has yet to have a lasting impact on the situation. The Strait of Hormuz, a vital water passageway, is a key choke point in the global oil trade, with 1/5 of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas supplies passing through it during peacetime. The crisis has prompted governments to tap into their strategic oil and gas reserves, and the United Kingdom has begun talks with a coalition of over 40 countries aimed at finding a way to reopen the strait. European aviation is particularly exposed to the shortage of jet fuel, relying heavily on imports from the Middle East. The summer season is a particularly busy time for Europe, with 747 million international arrivals expected in 2024. The impact of a prolonged disruption to jet fuel supplies could be severe, with airlines forced to cancel flights and reroute routes, potentially leading to significant losses for the aviation industry. The UK government's efforts to negotiate a resolution to the crisis will be closely watched, as the fate of European air travel hangs in the balance. We're shifting our focus to the Middle East, where a historic agreement between Israel and Iran has brought a fragile 10-day ceasefire to Lebanon. Good evening, I'm your name, and this is a special report on the latest developments in the ongoing conflict between Israel and Iran. A surprise move by the Israeli government has brought a temporary halt to the fighting in Lebanon, with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreeing to a 10-day ceasefire. According to reports, Netanyahu has agreed to pause attacks targeting the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militia, but made it clear that Israeli troops would not be withdrawing from the region. The truce, set to take effect at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, is seen as a major breakthrough in efforts to ease tensions between the U.S. and Israel, which have been increasingly strained over their shared concerns about Iran's nuclear program. The deal was brokered by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who met with Netanyahu earlier today to discuss a possible ceasefire. The agreement is seen as a significant concession by Israel, which has been criticized for its heavy-handed tactics in Lebanon. The Iranian government has also welcomed the move, with Foreign Minister Hossein Amir-Abdollahian calling the truce a positive step. The 10-day ceasefire is a crucial test of the agreement's durability, and it remains to be seen whether both sides will stick to the terms. The U.S. has already begun to ease some of its restrictions on Iran, and the truce could pave the way for a more comprehensive deal to end the war. For now, the fighting has slowed, and there is a glimmer of hope that a long and bloody conflict may finally be coming to an end. We're turning now to a developing story in the Middle East, where the U.S. president has made a surprising claim about the Iran situation. The Israeli military has launched 3 consecutive targeted strikes in southern Lebanon, killing 4 Lebanese rescue workers and wounding 6 others. The attacks occurred in the village of Mayfadown, near the bigger town of Nabatea, and targeted groups of medics responding to distress calls. The Lebanese Health Ministry has condemned the strikes as a blatant violation of international law. The Israeli military has previously accused the Iran-backed Hezbollah militant group of using ambulances as cover for militant activities, but has not offered evidence to support these claims. The strikes have raised concerns about the escalating violence in the region and the potential for further retaliation. President Trump says that leaders of Israel and Lebanon will speak on Thursday, as Washington pushes to ease hostilities between the two countries. This comes after their first direct talks in decades on Tuesday, which were widely seen as a positive development. Mr. Trump stated that trying to get a little breathing room between Israel and Lebanon, and implied that Thursday's planned discussion would be an effort to ease tensions. The situation in the Middle East remains volatile, with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and the Iran-Israel tensions ongoing. The international community has called for restraint and a return to diplomacy. The United States has a vested interest in maintaining stability in the region, and its efforts to mediate the conflict are likely to be closely watched. As tensions in the Middle East continue to escalate, the real question is, can a diplomatic breakthrough be found to calm the crisis? And if so, who will be the key player? The failed talks in Islamabad have raised concerns about the escalating tensions between the U.S. and Iran. The 15-point proposal by the U.S., which included measures to reduce Iran's nuclear capabilities, was met with a 10-point response from Tehran. The stark differences between the two proposals have cast doubt on the ability of the two sides to reach a peaceful agreement. The U.S. Vice President, J.D. Vance, spent less than a day in Islamabad, where negotiations were held on the nuclear question and several other issues. However, the talks ultimately failed, and Vance attributed the failure to Iran's rejection of the U.S. terms. The U.S. side was not in a position to dictate terms, as Iran stood firm when the ceasefire took effect on April 8. Despite this, U.S. President Donald Trump continued to escalate the situation by imposing a naval blockade on all ships sailing to or from Iranian ports through the Strait of Hormuz. This blockade is a serious act of war, and its imposition has already raised concerns about the potential for a wider conflict. Iran has threatened to attack the energy infrastructure of the U.S.-aligned Gulf monarchies in response to the blockade, which would drive up the price of oil and other critical commodities. This would have severe economic consequences and could lead to a full-scale war. With neither side ruling out further negotiations, it is clear that there is a need for urgent talks to prevent a catastrophic escalation of the conflict. The involvement of intermediaries such as Pakistan and Egypt, who are working behind the scenes to bridge the gaps between Tehran and Washington, offers a glimmer of hope for a peaceful resolution. That's all for tonight's news recap. Thank you for joining us. We'll keep you updated on the ongoing Iran war and its impact on global politics. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest news and in-depth analysis. Stay informed, stay vigilant. Until next time, good night and good luck.